Gladbrook-Reinbeck Community School District Board of Education. Christine, please note the roll in the minutes. All right. Do you have any visitors or communications? All right. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
Vote to approve the agenda.
Second. Motion by Matt, second by Dick. What are you gonna add something?
The only thing, item F under the new business, we were able to get that hot water heater ordered. It was able to be dropped below into my approval rating to be able to do, since Clint's gonna do the install for us. So we still were able to order it through Holland Enterprises. They were able to expedite the shipping. We looked at being able to get the same hot water heater through like Menards, but wouldn't be able to get it for right around like 3 weeks or so. They can get it here in a couple days. So we were able to do that, and then Clint and Shane will get that installed. So right out of the gate, and talking to Shane, we're estimating that that's gonna save right around $3,000 for the district with him being able to help get that installed, so.
You know, it's for the kitchen?
Yes, for the kitchen, correct. Looked into direct heat type of, or direct line services with the way the dishwashers work. That was, I believe, the issue, and then being able to get at the high enough heat to be able to provide hot enough water to the dishwashers and stuff. That's why they needed to have the larger capacity and be the commercial sized for that. So.
And did we price locally?
Yeah, I believe Shane tried this. These were the couple of quotes that we got back with what would be equivalent to what we currently had, so.
TJ's local.
Excuse me?
TJ Hoyne is local.
Oh, he is?
Yep, it's right outside of town.
Really? I did not know that.
Okay.
He's on the fire department.
He was, he's not anymore.
Oh, well, he used to be there.
Yeah.
Any other comments on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Next item is the approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Rod,
I'll second.
second by Christine to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I was reading through the reports, and I do like that income statement. I just wish we could get it,
That summary page.
well, a summary page, but month for the month, rather than the entire year. But can you tell me what, there's a segment in there about ARR stable something for $50,000 for the year? It's like on page 3 of 56. And if you guys didn't read all 56 pages.
In the minutes that I, the few minutes that I gave it to you to look at.
Yeah.
That was on the income statement you said?
Yeah, it shows as expense of 50 grand for district level ARRA stable as a. If you don't know, you can respond later.
I would say I'll have to look at what that is.
And then there's also 144 for district level CARES 3, 141 to 140. And just,
So the care should be the ESSER fund.
Does it say that's
okay, that's ESSER funding?
Yep.
Okay. Maybe you should say ESSER.
The
And then-
ARRA, wasn't that some federal funding?
I'd say that,
Yeah.
that could have been the first.
But it's an
round of
expense.
that. So I think when
I'm
Christine
guessing that the
was.
ESSER funds will come back, and when we get the checks, it'll all offset.
Gotcha.
So she had to go in and redo journal entries to recode it from previous accounts that they've been paid out of to those accounts, so that then we can do the reimbursement through those exact funds for the.
Okay,
come back.
and then there's a thing called junior high school teacher learning loss.
That's in the ESSER stuff as well.
Gotcha, okay.
The 43 and the 45 general ledger numbers are all the ESSER
Okay,
numbers.
so that takes care of a couple of those questions.
Yep.
And I had, and I think this might be the accounting software, but there's a superintendent office software for about $16,000.
That's the front line.
That's
Front line,
the-
okay,
the front line,
good,
yep.
good enough. Yeah, if we could get that down to where it's a month,
Yep.
and even show year-to-date on the same report, that would be fantastic. But I do kind of like the layout of the report.
I'm
It's
saying I
just
like
a
the
lot of
layout, it's
lines.
clean, but yeah, it's a lot of lines, so. It's a
And so,
work in progress, slowly.
as I talked with Christine tonight, or this afternoon and stuff about, one, being able to get these out more efficiently and ahead of time so we can meet our deadline of getting them out the Friday before. The other thing that I worked through and talking, including Vanessa, and on the conversation of trying to get it to exactly what we want the report to be. So, I think Donovan had shared with me earlier today too of a few different things, but wanting it to include those things from that high level lens, but at the same time also have, month to month, year to year, like unspent authorized balance and solvency ratio, projections kicked out. Again, that was all stuff that should be able to be done through Vista, and if it can't be done through Vista, I know that the front line with the Forecast 5 will run those for us. So we're also going to be contacting Laura from Frontline to figure out what kind of board reports that can kick out to us too, so that we can make sure that we have efficient, good board report to be able to get you guys on a
Well,
monthly
again,
basis.
ask them if they have a report writer, and then they can create the reports that we want. If they don't, then I would agree moving on.
Okay.
So my question would be, is then in January, we should expect this on your schedule?
Yeah, I mean, that's, we got to get to that place.
I mean, that's been.
I've reached out to the AEA too, looking at doing a form of like the Kaizen event and trying to look at how we could go through this as a process and have this be something that we really
Okay.
can target. If AEA can't assist with that, I'll reach out to IASB too, to see. But yeah.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be streamlined more.
Question, looking at the project summary, your year-to-date treasure fund. There's still a line for the R. Grimm estate gift.
Yeah, I think we can go in and like archive a lot of
Okay,
those and
'cause I was gonna say, I'm
deactivate.
pretty sure we spent that money about 8 or 9 years
Years
ago.
ago. Yeah, there's a few of them in there that we can go through and clean up.
But, yeah, I don't know why there would be such a big balance on that. Unless somehow we didn't spend that money.
Well, I was told we did.
Yeah.
It can only been spent on certain things, if I recall. And thank you for processing the DC kid payments.
You're
I know
welcome.
you're busy, but that was great, so.
Well, Andrea had it very organized, so it was very easy to toss in there.
Okay. We have the original motion by Matt, or by Rod, and second by Christine for the approval of consent agenda. We'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Now we're on to the reports. We got 2 lucky customers here today. Dan, I'll let you go first.
All right, I'm going first. So, are there any questions on the main bulk of what I had in the report? Tried to do some positive sharing there. There's a lot of great things going on. Obviously, I mean, I can't list them all, but the 3 that I kind of picked on, obviously the football team, and in the season where they did was a high point. You know, realizing that we had 26 new FFA members. That's more than a lot of schools have for total membership. So hats off to that program for what they're able to do and get those kids their jackets there. And what a great tradition they got with the ceremony there to honor those kids. And it was really cool to see. First FFA member I've been into about 30 years, so that's pretty good to see there. But and then on the 9th of December, we had the choir and band winter concert. Great performance there from our kids. Really enjoyed that. Kind of go through professional development and some of the other things that are going on. Some of the things that are coming down the pipe with the safety and security work that we're trying to do. And then I ended with talking a little bit about SmartPass. SmartPass is a digital app that I tried to get done in my previous district because I see the benefits of it. And I listed some of the things there for you. And I do have a supplement that I wanted to just hand out to everybody so you can look a little bit more at this. Essentially what SmartPass is, it's a digital app that would allow our teachers to allow students out of their classrooms rather than writing a paper pass or having them sign out on a sheet. One of the things that I was told when I first got the position here was that we have a lot of kids out of class a lot of time. So that got me thinking, okay, how do we maximize time in class? And that's kind of where I came back to SmartPass. And I did my homework. I looked at a couple different app systems. I talked to principals from around our conference and other conferences near us. I got a lot of great feedback about this. When I asked, principals, what do they think about SmartPass? I love it. I'm able to know where my kids are. I'm able to know how long they're out of class. I can see the digital report on my dashboard, those sorts of things. So let me just give you a little snippet. So student, Caleb wants to go to the bathroom. Okay, so Caleb, right now he raises his hand, interrupts the teacher, and the teacher comes over and says, yes, Caleb. Caleb says, hey, I need to go to the restroom. Teacher goes back to their desk, gets a piece of paper, probably doesn't have a pass book, gets a sticky note, writes him a pass, and hands him the pass to walk out the door, okay? Or the student asks to go to the restroom, the kid comes up, signs out on a notebook with a random time. Nobody knows for sure what time they actually left, whatever time they wrote down on the notebook, and then they walk out. A lot of times those students don't come back for 5-10 minutes. And in the throes of teaching, sometimes it's hard to know exactly how long those kids are gone. So a 3-minute bathroom break turns into 10 minutes. So that's 7 minutes, and you do that every day, 2 or 3 times a day. You can see how that would add up to the amount of time out of class. So what SmartPass would allow me to do is eliminate that traffic in the hallways. It would increase student accountability, because the way it works is quite simply, Caleb still asks to go to the bathroom. I'm like, yep, fill out your pass. On his Chromebook, he will click bathroom. He will turn it so I can see it from the front of the room or where I'm instructing, and it has a countdown timer. We can set that as a district, saying reasonable amount of time to go to the restroom, 3 minutes. If they're not back in 3 minutes, that screen goes to red. I know as a teacher that Caleb is not back where he's supposed to be, and it also automatically tells me as the principal that I have a student that's chronically out of class longer than the allotted time that they're allowed. Okay, not trying to make this more of a prison, just trying to increase accountability, trying to increase the amount of time that students are spending in class. At the end of the day, that's what we want to do. Now, the other part of this too, is the whole open campus idea where we let juniors and seniors go for lunch. And for the most part, that's worked out pretty good, right? Well, with SmartPass, if we are able to get our PO done before the end of the school year or into the calendar year, we get free passes, and they get a digital ID that has a barcode on it. So those juniors and seniors will be issued that card, then they just have to sign out, or they just scan it as they walk out the door. We set up a Chromebook with a kiosk, they scan it, they walk out the door. Now we know what time they left and what time they came back, and again, that accountability piece. If you're going to leave our campus, I want to know that you're safe. I want to know that you made it back on time.
So would you?
My biggest worry ever with open campus is roads like tonight. Fender benders like we had the other day with the student that ran in the back of a delivery truck. Those sorts of things worry me as a teacher. I look on that sheet, at what time do they get back? 12:40, whatever. And Caleb is not back yet. Now I can make a phone call. Where's Caleb at? And we can start to diagnose where that kid should be. So if we are able to do this, it's $2,000 for 18 months. So it's the rest of this year and all of next year to get digital passes and to get all the things that come with SmartPass. So it's not a ton of money, but it is money that I wanted to make sure you guys kind of understood where I was trying to go with this and why I was trying to go with this. And I'm not just willy-nilly spending money, left and right.
So what's it per cost per student?
About $5 per kid.
Per
Yep.
school year?
Yep, for the school year.
So it really doesn't take care of, being out in the hallway. What it does is it gives you a little bit more accountability for your time.
It does
Well,
track it
well-
up in the hallway because, let me interrupt you just a second, because we can limit the number of kids out in the hallway
Okay.
at a time. So on there, I can say no more than 5 kids are in the hallway at a time.
Okay.
So if Caleb is number 6, he's gonna get a message that says you can't leave right
All
now.
right.
So I can monitor that, and we can set the time, we can say, all right, you know, it's 4 minutes because bathrooms are closed or whatever
So
it
what's to
might
stop the
be.
student from using this on their cell phone besides the fact they're not supposed to have them in a classroom?
You could use it on a cell phone too. Yep, it would
But-
just be,
Is that what you want? Because they wouldn't have a cell phone in a classroom.
right,
And the teacher, they're gonna use a Chromebook tool to actually look and see what's on their notebook.
yeah.
So, okay.
That we can do it on the phone if that's kind of your policy, or they can do it on the Chromebook, one way or the other. But I would say right now, every student we know has a Chromebook, because we issue that to them, and they all have them in class.
Would you use this also when they check out to go to the Western Outreach?
Good, absolutely. You can set up a class that they check out, they scan out, and
Because
they're
you know it's
going out
about
to the
20
outreach.
minutes over there or thereabouts, and 20 minutes back, they should be back.
Yep, absolutely. So it'd really help that.
True.
So,
But it'd be
I keep
more than
forgetting
what
when
we
Western Outreach started, it was just supposed to be afternoons. So now it's, yeah, okay.
yep, we got kids going out there all periods of the day, so.
So like chorus and band, they're not using Chromebooks. What would you do in those classes then?
Well, I'm guessing they would have them with them, because every kid carries their backpack from class to class, so they could use their cell phones if you wanted them to. You know, they can set it up either way, it doesn't matter, it's just an online platform. So,
Into the future too, with SmartPass, does it have the capability of being able to do like a QR code scan, right, with an
Yep.
ID?
Yep.
So like going forward, if when we do our student pictures and stuff in the fall, we could have those IDs printed with the QR code.
Mhm.
So they could scan that like on a computer or something within the classroom to be
Yep.
able to, as a pass too.
yeah, and after I did all the research between this, and there's another system called Minga that has a lot more components to it. This is a lot more simple for teachers to manage and for me to manage, but this one also is now bought by Raptor. I don't know if you're familiar with Raptor, but it's an overall safety and security platform that we used in my previous district that I really want to start looking at a little bit more here. So it'd just be a good integration into
We don't have
that.
it purchased yet, it's something we've
No.
looked at.
Yep.
And we can definitely do. It's-
Right.
And that would be the visitor management.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I looked at, because when I was looking at Raptor, School Pass was one of the things that intrigued me too. It does have the possibility or capability of being able to track attendance. And so like when a student walks into a class, they would just scan their badge and it automatically populates attendance. Teachers would be able to run that as an attendance report, but would still have to log that into JMC right now. Where
No integration?
there are some of the.
Not making a case to get rid of that
Yeah,
three-letter
it's,
acronym.
I know.
Right.
Power School and I believe Infinite Campus both integrate with that, so it would
So
automatically.
so it doesn't integrate so that your names, you're gonna have to type the names into this again, or you're gonna have to export them?
It's all, it's all Google platform. So if we
Setup
went
would
with
be
this,
easy.
it all
It just
pulls up
wouldn't-
their Google
yeah.
information.
It just wouldn't automatically sync with like a JMC for attendance
Right.
purposes, but.
Yeah, and I haven't even thought about that strand yet. I mean, those are things that are coming down the road that this could lead to.
So how much more work is this gonna make it, or what's the teacher experience gonna be like? Because I don't wanna add more work for what they gotta do.
It's actually less.
Can they limit it per class?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and the teacher always has the autonomy to say, you're in the middle of a test right now, you know, you're not going anywhere right now, just wait, you know, a couple minutes.
So you
before
could go
get
into
a
the
break.
system and say, I have a test that day, you can't even request one.
I don't know about that, but
Okay.
the teacher themselves has the autonomy to do that whenever. You know, they don't just get up and go, they have to still, you know, get permission somehow before they are allowed to, you know, leave the classroom.
So the digital intercom system that we have, we were talking about getting like a wall unit that was close to the end of the door at one point. Are they all mounted like this, where they're up there?
Yeah.
And, yeah,
I mean, is there a way that you can get the app on there, so then that way it can like project for the teacher, like,
Well, that's a good idea.
I don't know.
I got a student now, red, okay, it's a bam, we can.
I don't know, I mean, you probably figure out a way to cast it, and Chromecast onto the TVs, so I don't know if you can do it onto that or not.
Well, then the other thing is like, so if the student was also using it to check out, to go do the business,
Yep,
if there was like a little lens that they would take their barcode and just put it on it, kind of like a clock in, clock out of
Yep.
class, then they could go do their stuff.
But I'm
Yep.
guessing tied to your Google ID, you've gotta be logged into the device for it to actually function for you.
right now, yeah, yep, yep. So that's Smart Pass, so if you saw that on there, like, what is this? That's kind of where I'm going from.
What's the setup
you know.
cost, anything?
What's that?
Setup cost?
It's $2,000 for everything, and that's
Everything?
including, $2,050, I think is what it is for 18 months. So the rest of this year and all of next year, everything that goes into it, so. It allows me to set up what they call a flex class, and that's where the open campus is. So I'll set up all juniors and seniors into that flex, pass. So if, for example, they're not making their grades, or they have so many tardies, I can remove that, so they're not allowed to check out for open
Well,
campus.
yeah, it doesn't stop them from going. but-
I know.
That's
Trust
why
me.
TASER comes into
I'm
play.
looking for ways that help
No,
manage
that's fine.
that.
So with this, would you also use this, that somebody has a doctor's appointment at 10 o'clock, they tap out, and it can be set, we give you X amount of time,
Good.
I don't know what that
I
would
don't, I don't know if
be.
you can set like appointments, but it would be the clock in and clock out. So in the office, they would have a, thing where they would, use their code and sign out. So then we could track that a little bit better. Because right now, we have paper and pencil sheets in the office, but who
I'm
looks
all
at
for
that?
eliminating paper, just so you know.
Right, but who looks at those? That's the
Yeah, I
hard
know.
part. It's that accountability piece,
Okay,
that's where I'm coming from, so.
So after the first 18 months, how much is the annual fee then?
It's $5 per kid, so, I think they prorated us at $250 roughly in this building, so.
For probably this year, and then, yeah.
so it's $5, less than $1,500 a year.
Yeah.
I'd want to see after that initial period,
Yeah.
whether the feedback is good, whether it saved us,
Sure, right.
you know.
And I took this I didn't just come up with this on my own, I took it to my building leadership team. They're like, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. I took it to my larger staff, and they're like, yeah, let's get on board, because that's one of the things that I keep hearing is, so-and-so's in the hallway every period. Well, this would eliminate that. You can say, Caleb, you're only allowed out 3 times today.
So.
And once you get to 4, they can't get out.
Back to the teacher process, so Caleb puts in a request to go to the CAN and raises the hand to go. And the teacher still basically has to approve it, but then they
Yep.
click the button here, they go off, do their thing, and they come back. And then if he's late, how does it notify the teacher?
It turns red.
Their screen turns red.
The kids, yep, and they would turn it towards you.
But to your
They would
point of
take it.
having a monitor there, that I don't have to look at his computer all the
Yep.
time.
So they would essentially take their computer, if you're the teacher, I'd say, yep, got
And you're
passed.
gonna ask him to
I'm gonna turn it in,
okay.
and I'm gonna walk out, come back. This is gonna turn bright red.
Okay.
And the teachers will know, ooh, they're not back in time,
All right,
so,
Yeah, I think it's a good idea as well, too.
yep. I think it's worth a shot. It's not a huge investment, but I think it really could clean up some things for us and get kids back in class more often, so.
so with that, would you then review the policies if you're late and what happens?
Right on, yep,
Okay.
yep. So,
All right.
all right, any other questions about my report at all? Anything? And if you ever have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me, call me, email me, stop in, it's all good, so.
So I would say, once we get started on this, let's circle back in April.
Yep,
and
yeah,
just go
absolutely.
over what
So-
we've learned.
When can you have it implemented?
Right after break. My plan is on the 3rd, or when we have PD, to get it started with teachers and
Okay.
get everything going. I gotta work with Sam to get the technology piece uploaded and the students populated into the system, but that should be pretty seamless,
Okay.
so, yeah.
I'm for giving it a try.
Thanks, guys. Well, yeah, yep.
Okay,
Before Sean goes, I got a question maybe for Dan and Caleb both, but in the transportation report, talked about, it'd be nice to find, the driver's ed car in a van used to park in the shop garage. So what is in the shop garage now, taking those places?
So-
what's his name, Shop Classics, not your name?
They've extended out and have a bunch of the concrete work materials and stuff out there. So that's something where I want to work with Fisher to see if we can't get that removed and then, or stored in another way, format, those types of things. but it also houses the tractor and I believe the school truck
Yeah,
as
the
well.
truck is out there too.
And so those are some things that I'll work with Shane and Fisher on. So the biggest thing is just getting those at bare minimum, the bus or van 49 inside too. That's what we're utilizing right now to transport our preschoolers. So making sure that that's easily accessible and that doesn't take a lot of work to get it brushed off and all that in the morning to be able to get them down to Gladbrook. And then, yeah, if we can get the driver's ed car inside as well. So I'll work with them to get that figured out because we got to get those inside.
Is this stuff that he uses a lot, that it would have to be close and adjacent to his area?
For like the shop, like Fisher
Yeah,
stuff.
Stuff that's taking up this space.
The tough part, no, not necessarily. Most of the concrete courses and stuff, I believe, are in the spring. It just takes up a lot of space, the concrete mixers and that kind of stuff, the blocks and all that. So we just need to come up with better ways to store it. I think ultimately is what I'm kind of gathering when I've asked for feedback of whether or not we can do it or not, so.
I mean, I hate to spend money on a building, but you certainly could look at a 2 to 3 stall type of thing, maybe across in the soccer parking lot there in a corner, possibly to put these in. I don't know what one would run, but it doesn't need to be fancy. In fact, your shop class ought to be able to build that next year.
There we go.
Well, they have concrete equipment, they can place more concrete.
There you go.
Get it forward.
Anyway.
Looking at a good board for a long time. Okay,
I would like to comment on the tech thing. We haven't had a technology meeting for quite a while, but I've been working with Sam on his phone system. And I know he's looked at several, but the thing about it is cloud is pretty expensive, so I threw a couple options about a hybrid model that basically could replace what we have for probably less than half the cost, and give you all the same functionality. So I don't think, in talking with him, we don't have to do it right away because this one's end of life in -- so you probably want to do it in like the summer before it goes end of life, or the summer. If it goes end of life in April, then do it that summer, because just because it's end of life doesn't mean it's not going to work.
Right.
But it would still give you the capability to have like one number and everything we have here, and talk on the computer and phones and app on your phone and all that kind of stuff. So, and we did look at options for the preschool in Gladbrook. Most of the hosters, you got to have a minimum number to host. So my recommendation is to one of two things, Caleb. Buy a cell phone,
Yep.
leave it there and charging.
that's the issue, is there's no cell phone reception down there.
Is there? Put a booster in. Or contact MediaCom, it's in the daycare's name, and you just add a phone to that, and it would simply be, you'd have to get a line down there, or you put a line, and just get a line down to the preschool and just put a regular phone down there.
Yep. Okay.
Would be,
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at a variety of options, but yeah, I think that's kind of was boiling back to that is the
Yeah.
best case scenario anyway, so.
so I think those would be one of the two
Okay.
best recommendations for that.
Appreciate that.
Okay, Sean. Go.
5th and 6th grade band choir did a great job, I thought. And then I didn't have it, but the K2 concert went really well. There was a lot of people at the event. December's PD went well. Kind of mentality of less is more at this point, as the rest of the year is really jam-packed. You can see the 3rd's kind of planned for PD, and then the 20th is when we have those different curriculums coming in throughout the day.
Can I have you spell out what those acronyms are on your report?
CK, oh yes, okay,
The
formative
table
assessment.
was nothing but an
Yeah,
acronym.
so formative assessments and summative assessments, so just make sure we're keeping track and updating our assessments as we are, going throughout the trimester, and tailing those back to make sure they align with our instruction that's happening. So standards-based grading, so making sure we're going, looking at, going within the curriculum and just kind of making sure our scope and sequence and aligning that, throughout the tri. The MTSS, and then Panorama. Panorama is that online platform that goes directly to the state. So like after our FAST assessments, we have to, any student that is a proficient, we have to make sure we upload what interventions we're doing to catch each kid up. So we're uploading and updating that platform. PLCs and PLCs, which is that professional learning community. And in that block is the social, emotional, behavioral health aspect. So in each one of these rotations, so I'm in the MTSS rotation, Amanda's in the formative summative assessment and standards-based grading rotation, and Jessica Weber is in the SEL or social emotional. So us three rotate through each of our grade levels as those times are going through. So when, WY, and what you need. So we sent out our first 3 days of snow day packets. So that's where we're going to be, staff will have that 45-minute block to work on that. I think I got all the acronyms.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I think I got it now. So.
You might want to give us a legend.
I'll take it next time.
The
Okay.
worst part is half of them then have another meeting too.
So, you see the family letters that went out to our community. Yesterday we had a lot of families come in. We did our character award. And then our FAST winter benchmark screening, we're planning to do those on the 13th through the 24th. And then iReady, which is aligned to each student's My Path that they do it for, it could be like, I think it comes around like 30 minutes a week. So in the reading and math, we're doing those assessments January 21st through the 7th, and then send the family reports out on the 7th. Ag Club, they met on the 12th, and then they'll meet on January 6th. We were able to get a tree decorated down at the Festival of Trees in Gladbrook. And then we have some of our emergency drills coming up. This week, probably not the most rigorous of weeks, but I mean, a lot of parent gifts are getting prepared, and so getting sent home yesterday, but kids and staff have been just doing a really good job this week, and as kids are excited about getting to break, and teachers are still putting them through different fun, like just different activities, educational activities, but it's not like the most rigorous, I would say, but I think when we get back, we are, I think kids will be ready to roll, staff is ready, so.
One thing I would comment on, even though, I mean, like, to your point, this week sometimes always feels less rigorous than others, but what I will say that I really appreciate a lot from especially our elementary staff is they're trying to make things very relevant even when they're doing some of those fun tasks and stuff. So like, I know tomorrow I have it on my calendar to go listen to 3rd grade present their poems that they all write. So like, it's still a core concept that they're teaching, but they're connecting it to what's going on right now in school. And 4th grade made their videos and stuff and did a lot of stuff that was Grinch themed and those, but they're incorporating them with their writing prompts and all that into kind of the themes of the year and stuff too, which is just really cool. It's a creative way to continue to keep the content relevant, but also to a degree attempt to keep that rigor up when it'd be a lot easier just to do more of the crafts and stuff this time of year too. So kudos to the staff on that.
Thank you. Now you have an oddball request. This is for you, Brian. So now that we're in a lot of indoor activities, for example, coming up the steps tonight, the 5th and 6th grade girls were practicing in the hallway, their basketball. And like when we had the state playouts, the book fair, with the Y-Care and the Lego League, we were pretty much playing around in closets. We were just trying to find a space to do it.
Yeah.
And so like what I've been kind of like going through my head is like, it's a disaster as far as scheduling, like, it is a mess. And so, like, what I'm wondering is if we can try to figure out a way for any activity that is in the school, is if we have a scheduling app of some sort, kind of like what Dan presented,
Yeah.
to where like all the coaches that use our facilities, all the programs, doesn't matter if they can go through and check something out, almost like in a business, you check out a meeting room, right? And it's on Microsoft Outlook, and you know that that room's checked out, and you know what's in there. And then also, the other thing that I've been thinking of is like, with all these entities touching our buildings, who's in our schools? Like, you know, we don't necessarily know. So like, I would like to get to a point to where like, if you don't have the space reserved, you don't get the space. Like, you're out of that space for that time, regardless of what's going on, because it's just kind of getting worse and worse and worse each year, because we're offering more and more and more, which is a great thing to have. So this is a good problem to have, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're just,
There's, like every night, there's something going on, whether it's high school or junior high or youth. And I know that if you go on the school website, there's the documents page that you can go and look at week by week each month, so you can see who has what reserved.
and I would say that
And-
that's filled out to
Yeah.
like a 10%.
And I get,
I would say, I'm guessing it's.
It should be a calendar
Gym
overlay
space, I believe, is
Yeah.
probably the one part that's the most accurate, but beyond gym space, I'm guessing, you know, if there's additional classroom spaces or library
Yeah.
being used and things like that, that's not necessarily accounted for, so.
No,
That'd be
no.
something we could add in, alternate other locations and
Yeah.
stuff as well to it, so that.
and I get not constant emails and texts, but enough asking, is this available on this date? Can you
We can look into it.
Well,
put us down for
I
this?
don't know
There's
about
gotta be
Google, but you
something out,
could,
but
that could
yeah.
all be automated under an Office 365 where
Yeah.
if Donovan wanted to reserve the gym and it's not available, it's gonna tell him he can't book it.
Right. And if you don't have the space reserved, then, I mean, we also need to crack down on the parents of like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or the
Just gonna go.
coaches of like, the times that they're kind of going in and scheduling stuff is crazy as well too. Like, it's a full-time job just trying to monitor, like, and you're also like, there's so much overlap of it that a lot of kids are losing out on choice because of the overlap, because they don't know the schedules, because of this, that, and the other, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's where I think we just need to start.
That's good.
If we're hosting the events and we're hosting a lot, then we need to kind of like set the boundaries of like, everybody fill this out or you don't use our space, period. Like, regardless of whatever it is, like, is what I think we need to get to. Sorry.
And I think for the most part, people are pretty good about contacting the business office and filling out a facility form, then that gets sent to me to make sure that it's okay, that there's space and stuff. But I know that there's times where people kind of maybe try to bypass that, and just come directly to me and ask, and they're not filling out a facility form, you know, so that we can make sure that there's adequate space and stuff for people to use, that there's no overlapping, you know, someone's not trying to just skate by and.
So you're saying they have to send it to Christine and she approves it and then they can go through and do it?
They're
when they talk
supposed
you?
to. It's supposed to come to the business office, but there's times where they will call Karen or they call Teresa.
Don't wanna
or-
get in the
I would say
weeds,
that
but why does it
that-
gotta
I
go to
would
the
say that
business
that-
office at
That
all?
whole process needs
Just
to
so
go
the money
to-
goes there and they have to come get a key.
Okay. But it hasn't been approved yet, right?
Right. They have to submit it and come, and then we can say, yes, there's room, or no, there's not.
Would seem there's some room for efficiency changes there.
Yeah,
Right.
oh, I
Absolutely.
made comments about that the other day.
Because I mean, you
And-
should be able to have the ability to just go in and audit it and say like, no, you're out of here,
Yeah.
like, this person had it here and like,
Yeah.
you know, I would say that that would be more of the case as opposed to you approving every single one. To me, that sounds like a lot of non-value add.
You know, I would get even to the point where they don't get a key, you get a fob, that way
Yeah.
the key doesn't come back. But anyway,
Well, that's what they get, is the fob.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Doesn't Bound allow that scheduling too?
It might be one of the things that you can get within Bound.
And then we gotta pay and user services. right?
Yeah, we would have to upgrade, because we're just kind of on the basic, very basic plan for Bound right now.
Well,
Some
there are
of your
tools
issues
that will do this for you.
Elementary, but-
Anyway.
Yeah, it's, well, I mean, it's just the,
Because like, yeah, the elementary, looking back at the facilities calendar here, there's nothing reserved at the elementary. So that's more where it seems like there's more of an issue maybe than the high school.
But I mean,
You got
Sean's
both
usually
ways.
there too. I mean, it's not that people aren't there, I'm just saying that it just seems like,
All the
you shouldn't have to
spaces.
be there to facilitate somebody coming in to do something as well too.
No, I see it like, if you're able to have like an app that, or like use the art room, the
Right.
music room, the conference room.
So just something to kind of look into and like help us out and help.
I like
Because
that.
I think it's also like a huge help to the parents as well too. Like, where's my kid at tonight? Like,
Yep.
is he practicing in the upper gym, the lower gym, or the elementary? I don't know. I have to go back to
Yeah.
our team space or emails or text messages and then figure out like,
That's where bound would be.
right.
Because they look at that for everything else, scheduling, and
Yeah, I mean, if
they could
it,
print out the entire junior high basketball, practice, game schedule, all in one spot.
because I mean, if it is a cost upgrade for it, what is it and like?
And there's,
what do
I
you
can
do
always
with it?
have somebody that can come and present that has talked to us at our AD meetings too, that is really familiar with Bound and how it works and,
And I'd want, the two things I'd want from Bound, if we want to engage them in the conversation with it, would be the cost. Essentially, the way I understand it with Bound is there can be two kind of cost components. You can either like basically pick and choose stuff from an à la carte menu, where then you would get billed out for those items. Or you can do the other option where you run all of your gate and ticketing through them, and then that's when your price is basically set at the, is it $7 or, right, $7 per transaction?
They actually- you get
And then
the fee
they
too.
take the 98 cents per transaction, where right now we're making a little bit more because we have a little bit of a transaction fee that we're absorbing, but it's not 98 cents that like Bound charges per transaction. So like those would be some of the things I'd want to look at, because if we could still make money off of gate in a better sense of doing our own credit card readers and stuff, but we can pick and choose, like here's some things that we'd like to have that Bound already offers, and this is what we pay on an annual basis. I think that'd be another way to look at it as well, so definitely open to that conversation.
I'm sure there's a software that'll do
Yeah,
that.
and
I know you
sure.
do it in Office 365, but we don't have that. Anyway,
Okay, sorry to derail
No.
the conversation.
It's good, it's good, good question.
Okay, Brian, since he came in, you get to go too.
just starting with girls' basketball. Their current record is 5-1. Boys are 4-1, both are 2-1 against NICL West teams. New set of rankings came out today for the girls. We were 15th last week. We are still currently 15th this week. Boys' first set of rankings will come out January 6th. We played North Tame on Monday, South Hardin on Tuesday. We'll go to Jessup tomorrow, and then we'll be off until Friday, January 3rd, and we'll host Wapsie Valley that night. I know John added some things about junior high basketball. Girls just finished up their season today against South Hardin. Boys junior high just started practice this past Monday. High school wrestling, the girls were supposed to go to Lisbon tonight, but due to some injuries and having a couple girls out, they were not making that trip, but they will go to Cedar Rapids Prairie on Saturday, and then they'll be off until January 4th. They'll go to VGM. The boys hosted a duel tonight with AGWSR. They'll have the JV tournament at home tomorrow night, then they'll host a varsity tournament on Saturday, and they won't be back until January 9th, where they go to Jessup. Junior high wrestling, they finished up their season. They had 9 participating. The girls will start their season after break, and John put anticipated 2 to 5 girls. We have done strength and conditioning in the morning. I know Coach Learning, the track coach, boys track coach, has been kind of in charge and spearheading that. We've had Coach Schumann in there. I know Coach Olson's helped. You have some of the supervisors that help with lifting in the morning that have also been kind of helping out with strength and conditioning. And then I did add, just a little bit ago, January 4th is our Hall of Fame night hosted by the Booster Club. That's out of Oakleaf. Social will start at 5. We'll have a welcome and then dinner at 6, and then we'll start a recognition at 7 o'clock that night.
so the RPOs, is that held in the weight room then too?
I think everything is done in the
weight
gym.
room? Okay.
Yeah, I know they brought some stuff from the weight room into the gym, and they do all that stuff in there,
Right.
6:15 to 7, I think it is.
Okay.
Do you know how many high school boys we have wrestling?
Oh, we have five, I think, yes.
And girls about the same?
Girls, there's 3,
Okay.
yeah. So it's not as many as last year for girls. There's a few that decided not to go out. And boys, it's about the same as last year.
So, because you're asking about how many kids, we got this esports thing going on. When did that start, or has it started, and how many kids we got participating?
Right now, they're in what they call their second season. We had 3 high school kids participate in the first season. There's 1 graduated early, so there's 2 that are continuing the second season. We got 2 junior high kids. We got 4 kids going right now.
All right.
So, junior high season is a little bit different. They practice on Monday and Friday only. So, a little different, but it's still a great opportunity for those kids.
And they've had 4 competitions. They have one tonight. They started on December 10th was their first competition. And then the 12th, the 17th, and then tonight.
I did see they were in the Commons, so are they having some practices here too? What's his name, was it Levi? He was in the Commons with a bunch of kids, so I didn't know.
Yeah, I think he came in, that might have been the middle school meeting that he had.
Okay.
Talked to the middle school kids, I'm
Okay.
guessing.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Brian, appreciate it.
Thank you.
The idea. Okay. Good reports, good discussion. There is no personnel appointments, no personnel resignations, that's good. No old business, and then on to new business.
Before you jump in there, I had 2 questions again for Christine. In the report, we had some expenses for rental of buildings to the tune of $1,100 and some change.
That's a daycare.
Preschool.
Okay, all right. So junior high school rental of a building for $10,000 is, that's daycare?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we just need to tidy up some descriptions here, so.
Technically don't have any act on yet.
All right, thanks.
So,
Sorry about that. I was on page 52. I didn't-
I gotta make a note of that page, so I can go in and look at it later.
Yeah, well, it just threw me for a loop because I didn't realize we were renting any buildings, so. Okay.
Okay, so the first item of the new business is approve auditor contract for the fiscal year 23-24.
so this is where we've struggled to be able to get and secure an auditor for the past fiscal year. People that we had used previously, they're entering the years where they're looking to start retiring and are starting to greatly reduce who they're serving. We have tried contacting a few different places, none of them will be able to do it currently, so prior to being able to, or contacting like the state auditor's office to see if we could get them to come in, which can take a long time to do and is also fairly expensive. We reached back out to our previous auditors to find out if we could at all entice them to be able to do one last audit for us. And so they have looked at and agreed to do that extension, which is what we're presenting tonight, to be able to come in. I believe they'd be coming in this spring to then conduct that. And then what we'd be looking to do is we'll release a new proposal out to start collecting bids and see if we can secure a new auditor going into, that would do this fiscal year and going forward as well. So we do have some potential leads that, weren't able to help us out with last year's, but would possibly or going forward that we can do. But this is getting tougher and tougher to find as well. The groups and people that have consistently offered auditing services for schools are realizing that, there's more money to be made in other areas and aspects. So a lot of them aren't doing it or discontinuing what they're offering to schools. So it's getting a lot harder and harder to find. So be another thing that'd be awesome if the state would just provide.
Well, you can even call them right now.
Huh?
If you call the state and
Yeah.
request a state, they're
Right
too
now,
short
they're-
right now too.
They're so far backed up too, but, so.
Okay,
I'll move to approve the auditor contract for fiscal year 23-24.
I'll second.
Motion by Doug, second by Rod to approve the auditor contract for the fiscal year 23-24 as presented. Any further discussion?
Is the fee about the same as what it was?
I believe it's fairly close to what it's been in the past. I'd have to go dig out the previous years, I'm not sure, it would have been before my time.
And these guys are like from,
Marshalltown area, yeah. And they've been really good. I mean, they've been really, really good to work with in the past from everything that I've heard and gathered. Last year's, going through stuff with them last year was nice. They're very thorough and I felt gave, good feedback and kudos when due and those types of things, so.
Their fee is not very expensive, so.
really?
Yeah.
Well, if they don't say they make any money out of it, they can simply raise their fee.
Some do.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Okay, the next item is the early graduation request.
So we have presented the current applicants for the early graduation requests included in there. I know one of the things that I have been working on with Dan and Amber is gathering feedback on being able to put together what we can have within our handbook to guide this process. Board policy basically says that it's up to the superintendent to be able to design the protocols or procedures for early graduation. That'd be done in conjunction with the high school principal. And so trying to work through that, also being able to take into consideration as we're building this, kind of plan of what we're communicating out to students and stuff. Being able to have that be something that would then also be able to apply to any students that are going through an alternate pathway. Knowing that can sometimes require, requests to occur after what we'd be looking at for the timeline, but in a general sense, this restricts the timeline back to being something that it puts it to be within the current trimester, so we know if students have completed all their coursework leading up to that trimester and they just have to complete the last one. So it gives us a good idea of whether they're on track to graduate or not and meet those requirements. And then it also would, but it does restrict that to those first 2 weeks of the trimester that they're wishing to graduate from. So we felt fairly comfortable with doing this. In conjunction with this though, I know one of the big areas of concern, especially this year, is we do seem to have a larger number of early graduation applicants and kiddos seeking early graduation this year in comparison to years past. And talking to Amber, this group does seem to be a little bit of an anomaly compared to years past, and even looking at what we have currently in the high school coming up through of students that would be planning or looking at to graduate early. With that being said though, that is one thing that I can let Dan speak to some of this too. We've started, Dan's been doing a lot of work, kind of starting to just look at the various things that we can either currently offer regarding to what our courses are and what our teachers would be certified in for credentialing, as well as looking at what we can do for other advanced programs, endorsements, with the goal of even being able to have some kids that can graduate with AA degrees and things like that. So I know Dan's digging into that, and then through our work with our district advisory committee or our SIAC committee, we're also looking at getting parents and community members, staff, and some students involved in talking about what can we do within our grade or our course offerings to incentivize more students to continue, finish out their entire career without graduating early, or if they are graduating early from a requirement standpoint, they're doing so because they're going to go pursue something post-secondary, whether it's going right into school or something like that, or looking at other things. But Dan, I'll let you add anything that you'd want kind of to that as we're investigating that and digging into that as well.
At the end of the day, we want something that's appealing to the kids. They know they want to go into a trade or a skill. We want to try to provide them the best look at what that might be and what that might take for training, whether it's a credential. I mean, there's a huge opportunity there. I think as a state, we're not tapping into is the idea of credentialing, and giving kids specialized training for a specialized job that will lead to more opportunities down the road. So that's something that we talked about at our fall meeting with RPP, the Regional Planning Partnership, and something I'm looking at continuing once Amber gets back from maternity leave and we have some time to hash through what we can currently offer.
I mean, couldn't we work with like Western Outreach or Hawkeye to, because I mean, all these ones that are applying for this early, they're all going into the workforce. I mean, like, one of them's going for certified, or get his apprenticeship in welding. Another one's didn't state what he was working at, and the other one's working at a grocery store.
Right.
So I mean, like, you know, that's where I kind of have, I'm starting to build a little bit of heartburn with like releasing students that early for just going into a basic field
Yep.
and not getting certified from it, and if we can help them get certified in it, and those ones that were just going into, you know, a field that's not of a certification type, how can we steer them towards that to where like, and we can help provide that for them to help alleviate graduating early, because like, it just baffles me how many kids we have graduating this early.
I will say the other three schools in the Western Outreach Consortium are exactly, you know, like us. They allow early graduation after the first trimester of their senior year. So we're right on pace that way. We're not doing something that's skewed from everybody else. And our graduation requirements are the same as the other schools too. So it's not like we're not requiring to fulfill those classes. But I totally agree with you, Donovan. I think we need to up the ante. I think we need to provide more robust opportunities for those kids, whether it's a CAPS program where they're actually working with a business side by side to work on an actual project that might lead to employment, but not just release them to a job.
That's where, like, when I was in school, and this was in the early 2000s, we had 4 or 5 kids that were doing apprenticeships as their school to work.
Yep.
And still going to school, and like, where did that go? Because I mean, that's where, you know,
Yep.
you're getting in with a company, you're getting your apprenticeship, and you're also still having the social interactions with school and the rigidity of school, you know, a little bit past when you're 18 or whatever, and going into your early adulthood. So I think that portion of it is also super valuable, and to where like, and this goes back to our whole thing with the school to work program that we have, is like, it seems like we need to really push that more to get that back into our education. So we just, I mean, if you ask any student who's a senior, if they got senioritis, do I want out of school? Yep, of course I do.
Yep.
But that's where we gotta, us as a district has to draw them back in to keep them here as long as we can. Because I don't want to see this happen next year as well too, that we have this many students graduating early. Like, I think it's kind of a loss for everybody.
To me, there's gotta be something wrong there, because there's still, you're telling me we have 2 trimesters that every student then here should be able to get done in 2 trimesters early because of what we require for graduation credits. I think we ought to look at that and see, do we need to bolster that?
Sure.
Do we need to eliminate the ability to take the same art class twice?
Yep.
Or 3 times? To your point, I think that if we could leverage the Western Outreach as it was designed to do, where you could take and get that welding certification. We bought how many new welders out here? We ought to be able to do that. There was just an article the other day about, I think it was 6 high school juniors or something like that that already have their CNA certifications in high school. So they're heads up on one, having those part-time jobs, but then being able to go out and start as a CNA.
Sure.
You know, why can't we look at something like that, or your welding or electrical? We have the tools out here,
Well, and
it keeps them here.
And one of the things that Dan's also talked about, that I know he's, you know, as he's into his role and he's working through things in his capacity and stuff as well, is then those community partnerships too. You know, if we can do some things that would offer any form of credentialing within like the field, you know, becoming an electrician and things like that, and doing some of those. We have some tremendous community groups and businesses and stuff in town when it comes to HVAC, plumbing, electrical, like all those types of things that we can look at that as well. talking with like Peterson Construction, what are some of the things that we could have students that, what are gonna be your needs coming up in the next few years that you need people to be able to enter the workforce and be able to do? Is that running these types of heavy machinery? Well, then how can we adopt some things that are gonna allow that to happen, or courses that are gonna let that prepare them for those types of things as well. So it's digging into what do we have local that we can shift kids into, and at the same time, yes, like what are the pathways that we can generate and provide. I've been in places like in Pella, there's programs where Vermeer is paying for kids year over year to be able to take courses in Pella. They're leaving as high-end certified welders and literally stepping on, making more than the instructor that taught them how to weld is making right there at Vermeer on an annual basis. And they're doing that, and then there's also the CNA programs and all that too. I would love to be able to have 2 graduations where we have graduation for our kids that are getting AA degrees, and then also graduation for their high school diploma as well. Like, those are all things that you can see other schools doing, but we need to see how we can make those be opportunities for our kids as well.
So how does that piggyback on with this job shadowing internship thing we're currently doing with the AA about getting a full-time person?
All interconnected, and it's what we have a meeting tomorrow after our leadership meeting to start talking about what that can, to a degree, look like next year and how we can have that.
So we'll be able to advertise for that person in January?
Well, and Dan and I are talking about what our specific needs are, because if it doesn't work to partner with them, we'd be better off of having that position in-house or even sharing it with another district. Because essentially when the AP kept our previous person, D&H, Grundy Center, and us all then shared with the AA. Well, if we can make it make sense to have our own, and even if it's shared with one other, then let's make that
Right,
happen.
but they still have that limitation on the number of students for that.
The AA does, but if it was ours. we
There you
wouldn't.
go.
And that's what we're trying to,
So I think
we're
this is
digging into as well.
Part of the whole conversation of how can we keep them here, and get them into an AA program, I think we gotta have that person, whether it's shared with Grundy or whoever, that person could help do this stuff so it doesn't fall on you.
So you're saying the other districts are having early graduations at the rate that we are right now?
I don't know about the number of people, but the criteria is the same.
Okay.
They release them, or they're able to graduate after the first trimester of their senior year.
Okay.
I checked some of
Not
that,
before.
I don't see that many,
Okay.
just off and on, just because I
Yeah.
can't.
Now, when I was in Grundy, we would have half dozen, but you also have to realize we had a full alternative school over there that worked those kids in a different pathway. So we had an alternative graduation that would probably graduate 5 to 6 kids a year, and the regular graduations. So, that's something that Caleb and I have talked about too, is given that idea of an alternative pathway of rebirth, maybe incorporating the person that's doing this other job, shadows and some of those sorts of things, to provide that alternate pathway. There's a lot of ideas out there. I think we just have to kind of pull them all together and figure out what model works best for us.
Right. And I'm not below going and saying that the 55 is, like, we can be better than the NICL as far, or whatever. Like, if we're making it that easy for it, then is our conference easy? Is a question I have. Like, can I just come up and get a diploma and just because I asked for it, or are we actually making the kids run through the ringer? That's the other thing, is we're trying to prepare them for something.
Sure.
And as a district, or as a conference, if everybody's the same, then like, what's our criteria? I'm just saying, is the benchmark too low?
Right. And we're a little different than some of the other conference schools because we are on trimesters. You look at it, we have 18 slots per year that a kid can take a class. And some of those are 2 tri-classes, some of them are 1 tri-classes. But they're able to move sometimes at a faster pace because they have so many opportunities.
But that shorter class, well, I know it's supposed to be the same amount of time.
Sure, right, absolutely.
Dan, if we,
Anyway.
But your credits that you get for that shorter amount of time, does that reflect it? Are you getting a full credit for half a thing where you should be getting half a credit?
The time is supposed to be the same in theory
Right.
when this all started. You weren't supposed to have a study hall. You're supposed to use that full time period. So the credits were equivalent based on the minutes in the classroom.
Yeah, it all comes back to seat minutes and minutes
Right.
in the class.
when we compare, and this is just, I'm sorry, and this would be a separate conversation if we need to have it, but when we're looking at our trimesters, I mean, I've worked in both systems and things like that, and this is the lack of my experience at the high school level and stuff at times, but when we're looking at, do all the other NCIL schools that are on trimesters, do they have any courses that you have to take the 3 trimesters to get it as a credit?
That I
Or
don't know, I'd have
like,
to.
I'm just thinking like in English, like an English 11 or an algebra.
Sure.
Where, is that a full year thing, or have they all condensed those down into 2 trimesters? That's just one of my wonderings.
Yeah, that's a good
Because if
question.
we
I don't
move
know.
towards that, we kept the requirements the same, but we said, some of these classes, you don't get this because you have to take it as the full year course.
Yeah.
Well, now that does make it a little more difficult. It's still not gonna be
Sure.
impossible, but it makes it a little more difficult to be able to graduate that, full 2 semesters early and stuff, but, yeah, okay.
And there's always ripple effects, right? You know,
Oh, yeah, no,
then
then
you do that, then
courses
then
that
the
you can
number of
offer,
FTE
the
that
number-
you have to
yep,
have,
the number of
you're
FTE,
gonna have to
yeah.
increase
I know.
staff. And
It's a can of
there's always
worms.
pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
But I think, to answer your question, I think we need to get a task force together that will look at this and see what model works best for us. And what opportunities do we want to provide for our kids? What opportunities do our kids want? Part of the reason I'm recruiting some kids to be a part of a principal advisory committee is to ask that question. What do you want? I mean, you guys are the kids, and we're sitting here as adults trying to make all the decisions. What types of classes would be interesting to you? What types of things are you thinking you want to do with your future? Start asking that
I
question.
don't think you're gonna get that.
Especially for junior and
Handwriting's
seniors.
required to be taught now. So
Yeah, we'll see.
Are there as many
So,
kids
anyway.
taking classes at Western Outreach as what we traditionally have had? I think that was part of the reason initially why we even went to trimesters, so kids could take more advanced classes out there and get more college
Yep.
credits and get them prepared for whatever they were doing next. Are we still seeing that used to?
A lot of the kids that are going out there are your 4-year track students.
Right.
Ones that want to take, psychology and some of those other classes that are going to gear them and transition them into a 4-year university or college. We're not seeing when Western Outreach was created, it was supposed to be a hands-on technical program and have some opportunities for those kids to explore those careers.
And then Hawkeye
And-
dropped the ball on that.
Right, and Hawkeye they're looking at it as, hey, we're gonna recruit you into our program or get you ready for a 4-year, which is not bad, but it's just different than what it was.
Right.
So,
Yeah, because it's not like an auto tech, like they're not kicking out
No.
just mechanics and,
No.
electricians to go be journeymen and things like that yet. Like they're doing the prerequisite type courses that then are hoping like, okay, now you've had that, now come here and actually get into our course and enroll
Right.
here versus doing it while they're in high school, yeah.
yeah, and talking with Steve Vanderpool, that's how it was. It's like Grundy Center would have the auto, and this school would have that, and this school would have that, and they would farm out the kids to learn those skills in the schools. But then people change jobs, and now you got an industrial tech teacher that doesn't want to do anything automotive because that's not their cup of tea, and now that goes by the wayside. And so there's a lot of factors involved here. But no, to get back to your original point, I do want to challenge our kids and provide opportunities for them to stay and get a certificate, get a credential to
And
better
this,
themselves.
I mean, this is something that came up within the SIAC committee too, as
Yes.
an area of concern, the rigor and making sure that
Yep.
we're keeping our standards held high.
So
Yep.
you mentioned a task force thing, so is that something you're going to do, and when you're gonna start that, and when could you have results?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I do have a list of parents I'm going to reach out to as far as a principal advisory committee from a parent lens too. I haven't reached out to them yet because I wanted to get the student one off the ground first. But that could be a job for that task.
I mean, are you looking at doing it this spring, so you could come back, I mean, would you probably make changes for next fall?
Yep,
I'm
I'm
gonna start
trying to do it
making
right
some
after break. That's
changes,
kind of an idea that reach out to those,
So
people.
I would encourage you to come to next month and have a timeline for that then.
Yep. Okay?
I mean, I think it's something we need to do, and we just need to put some meat into it, so, in my opinion, so.
Well, and I mean, to that point as well too, so like, I know we're kind of piggybacking on one
Yeah.
another and we're stacking up pretty high here. Is like, what are our kids going into? Like, what are they doing after they leave here? Like, do we have a pulse on that?
I would have to do some looking. I don't have the data to say this is where they're at post-secondary, but I know that data's out there. You know, I just have to go out and I gotta find it.
So I think, you know, one of the things that I would say is it would be good to look at that, to say like, these are where the kids are going.
This is what they're doing.
And it's, cause you're gonna kinda have like two, you know, guardrails. You're gonna have like what the students want. I want programming for video games and it's gonna be sweet, right?
And
Versus like, this is what the Cedar Valley, and, cause the other thing is like, we wanna send them out into the workforce, but we also wanna keep them, right? So we wanna keep this cycle going of, we have kids come to our school and they're staying in the area and we're doing this, that, and the other. And so like, then there's the, what does our area need the most? And we need to kind of make it fun and then come to the middle of that. And that's where I think the focus with that group should be, is something along those lines of like, hey, you guys want to do this, but what the society needs right now is this.
Yeah. But I will say this, I mean, I don't know what our exact data says 5 years post-secondary, but I know neighboring district that I worked in previously, we were 72% of kids 5 years down the road were not on their same path that they started out on when they graduated.
that's probably not changed in 40
72%.
years.
Right.
So if we're anything close to that, which I'm guessing we are, we need to reshape how we do school,
Right.
to try to get them a better look at what their future can look like and what they want to do.
Yeah.
So so then, I mean, that brings up an excellent point of like, you know, a lot of times when kids go to a 4-year school, they don't know what the heck they're gonna do, right? They switch majors 10 times and
Yep.
then they get a degree in German like myself and then you don't ever do it, right? So I mean, that's where, you know, it is nice to see that 4 or 5 years down the road of what you're gonna send the kids to, right?
Yep. And I think that some of the things that we talked about before, more job shadows, more experiences talking to employers and what employers are looking for, and trying to do that even earlier than what we currently do. Get some middle school kids thinking about what are careers. Because chances are, when they graduate, there's gonna be careers that aren't even created yet that they're gonna be able to step into.
Right.
But they still need problem solving, they still need some of those intangible characteristics that we can then look back on and say, make sure we focus on problem solving, making sure we focus on, you know, relationship building and communication and some of those other pieces. You gotta communicate, no matter what job you're in, you gotta be able to communicate.
You gotta do your own taxes, you gotta do this, that, and the other.
And you gotta
There's
show
still,
up on
there's still
time.
minimum society requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
also
just
a
it
reflection
too.
of that as
So
well.
if we go back to the early requirement graduation thing, you had put in here about a suggestion thing. Is there any reason we can't modify that a little bit and just invoke it and then we can approve the graduation request?
Yeah, we can do that.
I mean, because we've talked about this, and I'm not even gonna bring it up, you know, but if we change this, then we approve it, then I think from a policy thing, we're okay, if nobody has a problem with that. I would like to, if we're gonna talk about that, I'm just asking, because I'm not leading here. My question would be on the first 2 weeks, I would prefer to put that into days, because if the
Okay.
trimester starts on a Wednesday.
Right.
Is that 1 week? And I would say I could go 10 days or 15, and that's school days.
As I say,
I like 15.
Well, if you don't know by then, that's,
that's,
probably should be graduating.
10 business days. School days, there's a
10
lot of
school
days
days.
there.
How about days that end in Y?
Dan, what
I
would
don't
your
care.
2 cents on that be? Would you be thinking like 10, like regular school days, or 10, or 15 business days, or how would we wanna word that?
For the first 2 weeks of the trimester.
If we're thinking
It's what it
relatively.
says now, we're
Right.
not changing it.
But if you start in the middle of the week, that's
Yeah,
one
no, I
week.
agree completely.
I think we need to be very clear, so I wouldn't be opposed to saying the first 10 days of, first 10 school days of the trimester, or first 15, whatever. Beyond that, no. So, that would be one thing I would suggest changing, and then the other thing would be, I'm not real wild about deemed on an alternate pathway, because I don't know what that means. It's not definitive enough for me, but,
Is
that mean an alternate school pathway?
Yeah.
Because we
so
currently
if
don't
this
have
is-
one.
So this would be if they're doing like credit recovery and things like that in conjunction with trying to get caught up within other courses so that they can do some, to a degree, some form of curriculum compaction to graduate early, to do that, so.
So do you want it to say alternate curriculum pathway or something to that effect, or something? You're just thinking that it says alternate to what?
Yeah, and there's no
Basically.
definitive in there.
You missed your final and then you get to make it up?
Yeah, like, I don't know why we'd even let them do that,
Right.
unless they were in the hospital, you know, or deathbed, so. I struggle with the whole alternative pathway thing, is what I'm telling you.
Yep. No.
Is, because we don't have an alternative program currently. If we do, we don't have anybody that's heading it up, to my knowledge, so. Other than that, I can live with doing an early graduation, which means, you know, they just have to be prepared and get the paperwork in.
Sure.
Because are you modifying policy here, or is this the
No,
addendum
this
to
is
the
just
handbook?
handbook. So the policy says that it's up to me to
Exactly.
develop it in conjunction with the building.
So this would be an
principal. So
addendum and
this
amendment to the
doesn't
handbook?
change. Yep, this is just an amendment to the handbook. So,
Yep, I'd be good with that.
My only concern would be is if there's if that first 15 days, and we haven't had a board meeting, I mean, if they've met all the requirements, we should be okay.
my biggest
They
thing is
just have
the
to
application
apply.
has to be turned in.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we're not getting it after.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I can live with that. I don't like.
We can always approve it at the next board meeting, but it has to be turned in within that window, is where I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Dan, are you okay if we remove then that alternate pathway for the time being?
Yeah.
Until, okay.
I think you need to determine what that is.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, so.
And I don't think at this point we need to put anything about there if it's, because if you graduate and you're still participating in a sport, you're done with activities, but there's other rules we gotta look into there.
Yeah, and that's more of a state thing, and that would just be something that,
Yeah.
I gotta work on with the state to get that
So-
figured out.
Not regarding the wording, but regarding the requests themselves, can we, on the letter, have it say student name, student signature, parent name, parent signature, so you can actually know?
Yep, we can do that.
Or see an actual form of some kind.
Okay,
And just-
we can develop that too.
So,
Right.
did our earlier request for the first try not submit it for the second try? So,
They were submitted and did a special meeting. If I recall.
For,
so for the student that withdrew their application?
He did not resubmit it, he didn't turn one in for this.
So he's staying the full year now?
Or, yeah,
He is now.
that's fine. I think it's fine.
Two of the.
I think we need to encourage them to stay.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you shouldn't just grant it because they can, it's just, you know, we need to encourage them to stay. So, I don't know how you want to do this, but I would move to approve the handbook amendment for early graduation as it is presented. And I think, I don't know if we need to read it, or,
I can read it here.
I'm happy to read it.
Yeah, I would just say, basically what we're looking to do is edit what is currently in our handbook to provide more clarification so that students can apply within the trimester that they'll graduate or are wishing to graduate from, but that application has to be turned in within the first 15 days of the trimester to be able to do so. They'd have to submit that to their building principal, who will bring it to the superintendent for approval, which then be submitted to the school board.
One question I do have is we have a student who was approved to graduate
Yeah, I think
in the
that's the one
first
where-
try, chose to stay for a second try because he's doing an internship and he's getting some good work experiences. And he would like to graduate at the end of this try. Does he need a new application or has it already been granted, or how would
Well,
you like
technically, he
that?
was approved to graduate, and he should have graduated and been done. He should
Right.
have come to us and says, I want to rescind that, can you override that?
Right.
Which
So
I think,
so he is grad.
So
technically, by policy and approval, he is.
graduated.
He was approved to graduate after the first trimester. He did not graduate. He's
Right.
still going to school here. So I would say he needs a new application.
I would agree.
But then he wouldn't fall into it then, because we're past the 15
Right.
days. Past the
Well,
15
then,
days.
yeah.
And that's up to you. I mean, does this grandfather in somebody like that, or does it say, as of today, that's where we're at?
Well, I mean, that's why we're trying to
Right, no, I get it.
hash the policy out. 'cause-
I get it, and his, I certainly wasn't clear with him that you're gonna need another, application. I'm still figuring out the policies and procedures too, so.
Okay, if that wasn't communicated back to him, then it's no fault of his, but I mean, like, that's where,
Right.
like, because we had a ton of discussion over this, like,
Yeah.
over email and also in a board setting.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, it should have been crystal clear to him that he needed to apply.
Did he
Again.
decide to stay so he can participate in athletics?
Well, yeah, but that's contrary to what Dan said.
Yeah.
Yeah, we,
But
So I think with that,
You're 100% sure that that's his intent?
intentions, is
That
that
what?
he's assuming that he's graduating at the end of this try.
That, I'm sure that that's his intent.
Well, I'm not sure how that could be.
So,
So would we want to approve his early graduation based on his initial request? But
from last trimester.
put it in the minutes again that we approved it. I think we need
We need to have.
take action on, either we take action with him tonight, or he's not gonna graduate. I mean, we need to say for certain what we're gonna do.
well, if that was our communication back to him, and he was assuming that, and that's his intentions, and that he was assuming that is no fault of his. He requested it, he had it, and the circumstances basically got him to the point where he was in a position to where he needed to rescind it and stay.
Right.
That's already a challenging decision on its own, so we can't fault him for that. But I mean, like, going forward, each time we do this, it has to
No,
be
it has to.
approved,
Yeah.
is what I think we should do with this one. Because I mean, like, again, it's at no fault of the students on that.
Well, it is, he didn't read the policy, and he wasn't advised to.
We've been changing it right here in front of us.
I
right now.
know, but when he made that decision, he had decided to graduate, we didn't take action to go on to continue as a school, we can debate all, or student. I agree we need to handle it, but we don't have a request from him. So I don't know how we can handle it.
What I'm saying is and from his eyes, he technically didn't think that he needed to submit another request.
Request.
Yeah.
Does he still want to graduate early?
That's what he's saying, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
So I would say basically, we take his request from the first trimester and throw it in with this early graduation request list for tonight and approve. Instead of 3, we approve 4 early graduation requests.
I would agree with that.
But we still have, Doug made a motion a long time ago to approve the handbook revisions, and we didn't even have a second, so.
Yeah, I know.
We got sidetracked.
Yeah, we were in the weeds.
Okay. Is there
I'll second the change
Okay.
to the handbook.
So we have the motion by Doug, second by Christine, to approve the changes for the timing of within where the application is submitted for early graduation requests, and the statements that Caleb had earlier. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries.
So can you make those changes in the handbook and then let everybody know what
Yep.
that is?
Yep.
Thank you.
Should probably strike that word from, graduating from.
Yes.
Strike the word from. Dangling preposition.
Yep.
English teacher?
Business English.
I move to approve the early graduation requests for Isaacson, Knock, Ryder, and Stanek.
I'll second.
Motion by Matt, second by Christine to approve the early graduation requests from Isaacson, Knock, Ryder, and Stanek. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
I'm an aye.
Okay, motion carries.
So, this will never happen again.
Nope.
And
I think this
Yeah.
gives us something.
if for some reason we're in a similar situation next fall, I think
Well,
I mean.
I'm gonna work with the state on that prior, because there's enough schools in the state now that run on trimesters that would allow that early graduation trimesters that, I mean, it was a week overlap this year that caused a significant issue that you look at any other sport that doesn't apply to. Like, I mean, almost every spring championship occurs after graduation, and nobody bats an eye at that. So I don't know why this wouldn't be able to fall under that.
If you read it, you're graduating on schedule,
Yeah.
not early. But I would appreciate you getting clarification on that,
yeah.
because we can easily add that into the handbook if needed. Here is what happens if you choose to do it,
Yeah, if this
that
happens, this is how we will allow for it to, or still allow for it to work.
Because, again, the last thing I would ever want to have is you go to that game and you
Yeah.
win, and they come back and say, hey, you had an ineligible student because you authorized him to graduate 10 days ago. He is not a student.
Yep.
That's all I really care about protecting.
Yeah.
Well, and, yeah, you
And
need
to
to make
me,
sure
it's
the
the-
student
yeah.
understands.
Exactly.
What happens when you sign this early graduation request.
Well, and that's this year,
Just
even,
do dual enrollment.
well, so this year, the advice we got from the state, which it's one of those like, I mean, it made my skin crawl, was basically, all they have to be in order to participate is enrolled in courses. So online, you have to be able to pull up and have to be enrolled in a day that is equivalent to 60% of the day for enrollment. So they can be enrolled, and then as long as that is taking place, they can still participate. And then the moment the state championship is done, they can say, no, I'm unenrolling.
But can you,
And
after you graduate, can you come back and enroll? Clarifications is all we need.
Yep, and so that was the,
Because you're done. Student activities are off. We just need it clarified, thank you.
Yep.
We beat that one. It's
Okay,
dead.
we
Cheeto
beat
hamburger.
that horse to death.
it is.
Pretty bad.
It is dead.
Okay, so, all right, next item is the SBRC application for increased enrollment, not included in previous years' certified enrollment.
So these are kind of the next three agenda items are just kind of our annual request back to the BRC for the authorized budget increase. So right now, our enrollment from the year prior, we were up right around 1.5 students, I believe, which would be equal to about that much. So it's just to get that spending authority back. So the first one is for the increased in enrollment. That was not previously in our certified enrollment.
I'll move to approve the SBRC application for increased enrollment as it was presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Doug, second by Jordan to approve the SBRC application for increased enrollment as presented. Any further discussion? See none? Proceed to vote.
So that's anytime anybody moves into the district after the October date.
And our ending kind of count date in the spring is higher, then you can request to get the spending authority back for that.
So that's just the last day of the school? Okay.
So, but when we submit our SRI in the spring, which would be the last day of school, usually gets submitted in June.
So, I guess that kind of rings a bell, so like, does the SBRC ever say like, you lost students?
No, typically not. No, so you don't ever lose the funding. It's just to get the authority back within the spending limit there.
All right, I'm just making sure they're not gonna come back and say like,
No.
no, you lost 5 students due to move out, so you should lose that. And if we're bugging them for an application, then
Mhm.
it would be more
Yeah.
likely to say that, right? Okay.
If that number was negative, we wouldn't request them to remove the authority.
Right. Okay, so we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? All right. Next item is the SBRC application for open enrollment out, not included in previous year's certified enrollment.
And so this is for, this is virtually the same thing, looking at our open enrollment out. And so this would be, we'll be looking at to get the spending authority back on that as well.
I'll move to approve the SBRC application for open enrollment out as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Dick, second by Rod to approve the SBRC application for open enrollment out as presented. Any further discussion?
That is including weighted enrollment, correct?
Yes, correct.
Because, there's no way that we lost that many
Mhm,
kids.
correct, yes, that'd be weighted.
Okay, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Next item is dropout prevention.
So this is again looking at requesting back for maximizing the funds that we can receive for at-risk dropout prevention. One thing that I noticed with this year is our request amount is actually lower. And part of this is what I'll make sure that I work on with Christine to ensure that as we're expending out our dropout and at-risk funding, we're making sure everything is coded correctly and stuff, so we're maximizing what we can request back. It's like this year, we weren't able to request as much as requested last year because we still had a carryover of funds from the previous year. So if we spend all those funds, then we'd be able to request the full amount. So it's not that we don't still have the same funds, it's just we can't request as much as we did the previous year because we didn't expend as much as we did the previous year within that fund pool. So we'll make sure we get that exhausted and spent down.
So this is more of my ignorance. So what do we do with the at-risk?
Yep, so right now, at-risk dropout prevention, we use that funding to pay for primarily our counselors' salaries. So this would be looking at paying for, Jessica's salary and Amber's salary here at the secondary. And then if we provide any additional like programming, we can also use this to pay, for like our, some of our, Edmentum courses and things like that we're purchasing to be able to provide some of those credit recovery courses and that type of stuff too would come out of at-risk and dropout prevention.
So then, what else supplements their work then? If we request this amount and then to fill.
So whatever's not covered by that would be what we currently have in access of the dropout, what our carryover was in that fund. And then if there's anything that surpasses that, we'd be looking at general fund or the other fund buckets that we could utilize to, if it's professional development they need or things like that, we would be able to dip into those areas too.
So, but the intention for the at-risk development wasn't intended for guidance counselor salaries.
It's got a plethora of what its intended purposes were. A lot of it were for like counselor salaries, things like that. You could use it, especially in larger districts. They use it to potentially fund additional programs too, with it being like credit recovery programs, or they get into like some districts that have, their budgets are allowing for it. They'll pay for their counselors out of general fund, but they'll pay for like social workers and mental health therapists and counselors out of their at-risk dropout fund. Or some districts will just have like an at-risk dropout coordinator that they pay for that, and that person does more of the tracking of all the data, helps provide interventions, would maybe potentially provide the coursework and stuff, or the supervising teacher for the coursework for that credit recovery type stuff. So there's a variety of applications that you can use it for. But I would say districts our size, a lot of them, we utilize that funding for primarily like counselor salaries, benefits, things like that.
Okay, third and final question. With the AEA's flux of whatever's happening there, is there monies that, since that service provided is also doing down,
Mhm.
is there an
Yes.
opportunity to pull more of that service back
Mhm.
and use it?
Yep, and so those are some of the things that we're starting to look at right now. One of the things we'll talk about in our leadership team meeting tomorrow is what we originally at the beginning of the year budgeted for our, budget from the AEA, what we're gonna utilize, how often we're gonna utilize them, the services they were gonna provide us. Make sure that we're meeting that trajectory. Even then, we already still had excess funds that weren't being utilized for AEA services that would be able to be implemented back into our general fund too. So, yeah, there's definitely some potential. I'm just trying to, this year is kind of that first year of seeing where do we land, how's that looking, and then going into next year, then we'll be able to put together more of a solid plan of here's exactly what we've utilized those previous years AEA funding for with the AEA, but then here's also what we have access to as a district to, do we expand positions, add positions, or do we just look to, partner out with other people and, collaborate those funds and things like that, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, I made a.
No,
rubber stamp
great,
item,
great questions.
1-minute conversation.
Good questions though.
All right, I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll move to submit a request for the modified supplemental amount of at-risk dropout prevention funding in the amount of $115,853.
I'll second.
Motion by Matt, second by Jordan to approve the modified supplemental amount of the at-risk dropout prevention of $115,853. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we struck out item F, on to G, with options for financial reports.
So we kind of talked a little bit about this up in the consent agenda, so if there's further discussion, we can have that here. Otherwise, Christine and I can definitely continue to work on the things that we discussed previously and work to get that information to you guys as soon as possible and get you updates on some timelines and all that too. Of essentially what we can get done and make happen.
Okay. Just one note on that is like, I would request that since we've been behind on that, is that we have, just like with the presentations with the reports, is that we need to, everybody here on this board needs to familiarize ourselves with what that is, so we need to have that presented to us, review it, talk in depth about it, and get our, everybody on the same page with that, so everybody's understanding what these funds are, where they're coming from, what they are, what our current setting is, and then that would segue into a work session when we're talking about projections going forward, right?
We'd also encourage your Vanessa person that if they can't get this something 99% done by January, then tell them we're gonna look at other solutions, because this should not be that big a deal. I'm sure we're not the only school using this product.
Okay,
I liked the reports that Deb Olson used to get it to us.
Yeah, no,
So I
and
guess looking back at board
No, I-
commentary from 4 years ago or whatever,
yeah.
We like the information that's in them too, but it's an Excel sheet that she had to build
Right.
every month
Yeah.
and enter the information.
So you should be able to produce this sheet as an Excel sheet and give us the ability to drill down, but
But it's just, I'm having to enter the information in each line, that's.
no, you
all.
don't. You should be able to produce it right out of the system in an Excel spreadsheet. If you
Yes.
can't, another reason to look at a different system. It'd make your jobs easier. Anyway, so that's your challenge.
Yep.
Have it to us on
I
January.
shared previous reports with Vanessa too, saying like, this is, we want it to get to look like this. I also included, I believe it was April 2023, there was a projection from Forecast 5 that then had the solvency ratios, all that, unspent authorized balance, and then that carried out as a projection too over the, the previous years and then the next couple.
Show us, that's
I
what
want-
we need to see
I
next
want
time,
that,
yeah.
yeah, that's,
That
I
should
want
just
it
be
to
a
be able
monthly
to do
deal.
that. Yeah.
Produced. It
So-
shouldn't be that big a deal, I wouldn't think.
And I shared that with Vanessa too, and I'm like, this is the stuff I want to be able to give my board on a monthly basis, how do we make it happen? So, yep.
good. Thank you.
But thank you for all your work on that. It's just,
Yeah, I know, we're both frustrated, you guys are frustrated, it's just, it's gotten to that point where, we just gotta.
Well, there are other
we gotta-
options.
Yep, we gotta figure it out, or
Well,
find
and
another
I would,
option.
and I would even put it to another extent, is like, if there's things that are bothering you, that are interfering with getting that report, you can send them our way by all means. Like, if there's personnel, something like that, that's taking up your time or something like that, that where we can help, or questions, we just need those reports, like, paramount of what it is, like, whatever we can do to help, let us help you, we need the reports, that's what
Yep.
our whole existence is for, is making sure financial stability of this district is paramount, right? All right, so send it, okay. Okay, presentation on the district annual report, SiAC.
Yep, so, I've provided all the information here. Essentially, within the overall presentation, what we shared with the SiAC committee, overall was, going through the first part was their purpose, and it's to help provide feedback back to the district on what we can focus on, what should be our areas of improvement.
Who did you share with, who's on this?
This should be within the agenda, commentary agenda.
No, I'm
Oh,
saying,
sorry.
who's on the SiAC
Okay.
committee?
Um,
Who had these
Yep.
interactions?
So,
Who are the members?
Yeah,
we had, how many did we have that night?
We had 19 there, I invited about 40. And we have about 6 or 7 that are like, hey, I want to be there in the future, but that night just didn't work. So for the next 3 nights, we should have somewhere around 25 to 26 people, which is really a good number.
Do you have those published out?
yeah, I
When
saw
those
who
meetings
was
are.
there all through the middle of the
Yeah,
night, but I'm just
yep.
wondering, like,
Yeah, and I appreciate you inviting so many people, because I feel like the people that came, everybody there was either employed by the school or the ADA. I mean, not, and like, they could be a parent and employed, but like, there was nobody that was like directly tied. Like, there was no just parent there.
Yeah, and I know those have been invited, and we got some that
Yeah,
are.
or just like, and I know, I'm sure you guys invited, but like, I would say really try to make sure
Yeah.
some of those people show up, because otherwise you were just, I mean, you're just getting
You're preaching, yeah,
education
you're
and,
scratching,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, you're not
Scratching
getting
the
any
surface, yep.
outside, yeah.
So the list that I tried to put together was, people from all areas of the district, all areas of business and industry and ministerial council and so on and so forth, and trying to get a wide, array of people to come to that.
Yeah,
meeting.
I know our minister was excited to be asked, but he already had commitments that night
Yeah.
because his feedback was, wow, I wish I'd have known.
Yeah.
That's why you need to get them published.
And that's,
I mean,
Yep.
We've got
I would
the-
encourage you that when July 1st hit, here's the dates for these meetings. Because then if they're serious about being on it, they'll block it if all possible, but thank you for doing it.
And this isn't a committee that we need to approve members of by any means, because
used to.
in the past, we, as a board, approved. I mean, it was every year you had 3 or 4 people that were going off of the advisory committee. So you'd have to find 3 or 4 new people or ask them if they wanted to stay on for another. It was like a 3-year term or whatever. So I'm fine with it either way, but as long as we don't have to approve it. No need to.
I'll look into, I'm not aware of any policies or anything that would require approval of members. I will dig into that too.
Well, just so you want, check policy 600, the last paragraph, but you can do that offline. It says it's supposed to be approved. So,
I pulled that up really fast.
I always have it up.
He's in there.
Live, breathe, and love it, man.
What Dan did work to do with the group is run them through SWOT analysis. So they looked at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then additional information and stuff was shared. This looked at, our demographic information that's required to be shared from the state. So looked at our enrollment, our low socioeconomic student population, our IEP population, overall demographics, open roll in, open roll out, and then racial breakdown as well within the district. Some of the things that we worked to really highlight was, our jump in the high school's rating from, to the commendable rating within the state. The elementary, its score improved from the 55.41% to a 65.91% of the total number of points that can be attained. Still remained commendable, but they're definitely getting closer to that higher performing status too. And then even within the college coursework, we increased last year with our students. We went from 47.4% participating in college coursework to 68.99% there. So those were a couple of the highlights that we shared. Also, in looking at some of our concern areas when it comes to like harassment and bullying prevention, this is where we'd be utilizing our data from our conditions from learning survey. These are areas we definitely want to work to improve on, why we're doing some focus around climate and culture within our professional development this year. Also why we're working on doing more stuff and implementing a character strong programming and stuff at the elementary and secondary too. Included information on post-secondary success that our school performance profile shared out. So it's working to get that communicated. When we look at our ISASS performance, this was definitely positive to see. Almost all of our grade levels for the most part are above the 70% proficient, with the exception of our 11th grade class right now. So those are some areas that we're really working to focus in on. We did get new ELA curriculum for the secondary this year that's being implemented, and so far seems to be going pretty well. So we're excited to see what that does to our overall performance on ISASP this spring there. Our goal overall is to work to improve, to get every grade level above that 70 to 75% proficient in ELA, math, and science as well. So those are some of the goals we're working towards.
So, sorry to interrupt.
No.
So like, what's that base? I mean, I know it's based on proficiency of the ISAS, but like, when you're reviewing it, because I'm assuming that they interviewed this with you guys, right?
Yes.
And then you guys had discussion back with them in regards to what? Like, what's, like, when these items are presented to the group, what is discussed?
So essentially, we did the SWOT analysis first, and then got this information, and then kind of went back and looked at the SWOT to see if that changed our perception or made it stay the same. That was essentially what the discussion was, I would say. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So SWOT being,
The strengths, weakness, opportunities,
okay.
threats.
okay. And like, you guys discussed that on like each of these slides, or each of these items there in some extent?
So, we did that first. We shared it all kind of together. So we also had like 4 or 5 different tables, 4 different tables. Each table did their own SWOT analysis. Then we kind of combined it. Then we went through the information, and then we kind of circled back to say, does now knowing this information change what we think, or how we would have categorized things, anything like that, was essentially what the meeting was.
Okay, all right, just curious about the process, how this worked out, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. And so basically continued when we're looking at sharing kind of our goals, our leadership team and stuff, and we've been looking at goals and stuff this year. What we work to dig in on is overall goals that we're working to work towards. One of the things we looked at was increasing our proficiency to around that 80% across the board in ELA and in math by 2027. And then knowing that we can make some incremental improvements towards that. And then also working to improve, so long as we're hoping the state continues to provide and offer the conditions for learning survey, that we're going to improve in those areas of the emotional and physical safety by 20% on those metrics as well by 2027 too, utilizing those as the assessment tools. And then yeah, Dan, I'll kind of turn it over to you too. I was out sick this night, so had Dan kind of take the reins and lead he helped me plan the SIAC committee, get it set up and stuff. And so I had him kind of do the presenting, and then I know Sean assisted with that, and then Greg helped with data collection, and then getting some of that data to me so I could synthesize it into the SIAC report and stuff there as well. So, well, you kind of talk a little bit more about the night and stuff too.
Sure, I mean, I guess it was, I got the benefit of walking around to each of the tables and hearing the conversations that were going on, and very rich conversations and different perspectives coming from it. You know, some were just parents, some were actual teachers that have kids and so on and so forth, and, you know, a lot of the same things came up. And then we took an opportunity to have, you know, everybody share a strength and just kind of went around the room, and a lot of things were echoed. I mean, we have a lot of things that we do really well as a district, and I think those came out in that conversation. We went to the weaknesses, and we're like, there's a lot of things that we can improve upon. Those opportunities are things that we as a SIAC could really set a goal around that we could try to see through. And those threats are those other things that, you know, we just have to face as a small school. What are the things that we are threatened with? And what are the things that we can try to overcome? So the conversation I felt was really good, and some of the feedback I got from some of the members was, you know, the conversation led us in a good path to really see and hone in on some positives that we can really work on to improve. So, I don't know, maybe you guys have anything to add to that from, that were at the meeting?
No, I think it was a good conversation. I think looking at the data, a lot of the conversation was kind of geared towards the rigor
Yep.
of, you know, what's happening specifically in junior high and high school. One thing that was kind of brought up at the table I was at was maybe bringing back some of like the high school kids that had just recently graduated.
Yep.
Because they had some insight into, you know, how to study and, you know, what is actually going to happen if you go to college. And they're going to give you an assignment of 50 plus pages to read, right, in a night. And I think some were kind of lost in that, like, oh, wow, like I have to do that in order to get my grades. And
Yep. We did invite two students, one junior and one senior. The senior had basketball practice, so he couldn't be there, but the junior was, and she gave, I thought, great perspective on the students' perspective of what they're seeing, and so that's a good thing about the SIAC too, is it gets that voice heard too.
she did a very nice job.
Oh, yeah.
So, when was the last time that we did this before the meeting that you had there? When was the last time you had the?
SIAC would have had one last year.
They would have called it the district
The
advisory
district,
committee,
the DAC,
You're
DAC.
supposed to have like 3 or 4 of them a year.
Minimums, usually what you're supposed to be looking at is right around 2 to be able to do the reporting. We typically piggyback those on with CTT or CTE nights as well. So I know like last year, I'm trying to remember what our one in the spring was, or when our one in the spring was, but I know the one in the fall would have been right around that late November, December time period as well. And our CTE team presented on what they were each doing and stuff too within the programming, so.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
So, good thing in talking with Dan and stuff, and we do want to make this a group that's more active in providing that feedback. So we have worked to schedule out additional nights to be able to meet going forward, so that we can have, you know, additional times to get through some of the things that were highlighted and focused in on as we're going forward to you know, be able to bring some suggestions back, have our schools work on developing some plans of how we can address some of those things and create action items on them. So I'm looking forward to doing that this year and getting more of that done.
Okay. The floor is yours.
Okay, superintendent report. Not a lot to add to the report overall. Big kudos, I definitely want to highlight and give a shout out to Kate and Jennifer for all their work on the nutrition audit for this year. It usually occurs, you know, once around every 5 years. It sounds like they're trying to start to restructure some of the auditing process for nutrition programs to break it up into some different segments on an annual basis. But overall, we had, I think, 2 or 3 items that we have for corrective actions. All are really small, especially in talking with the gal from the state in regards to what other schools are having to do for corrective actions and stuff as well. So we're sitting in a really, really good spot there. One of them was as simple as we need to revive our wellness committee and get that together so that we can show that we're meeting on an annual basis there. So some things that, we just need to make sure we get revived and going again, but overall had a really good audit or site visit from them on that.
Quick question on that, in that nutrition thing, we bought a piece of software, does that software augment
Yeah.
any of this auditing? Does it help save
It
us
helps
time in that?
immensely, so a lot of that was for like the menu preparation and those types of things. And so when preparing for this, Jennifer was able to just run a
Got it.
report
Great.
that has everything set and ready to go. So it really
Or
definitely
get some
streamlined
ROI out
that
of that
and
thing.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
super.
for sure.
Thank you.
Some ESSER funding, we got all that submitted, so we're working on, looking to get the reimbursements back to that. Big kudos to Christine and working through that, because I know some of that definitely required a little more work than we had initially thought it would. And then overall, one of the other things, as we're working through kind of facilities and talking through some of that, one of the things that I'm looking at too, Dan had reached out to me and shared a book called High Conflict, Why We Get Trapped and How We Get Out. And there's a lot of correlations that could, tie into some of the high conflict issues that we have within our district in regards to, community decisiveness and things like that, especially when it comes to working to pass a bond. And so I'm going to dig into this a little bit and see if it could be advantageous of, maybe trying to incorporate that into a little bit of a book study for anybody that would want to participate, kind of see if that would be something that people would be interested in and something we could work to lead to start to bring some ideas of how we could break down some of that conflict better as well in the future. But
So I see, were we supposed to have a
I
buildings
know, I
and
just saw
grounds
that, I was
tonight?
just like, oh no.
Because I don't recall seeing it on a calendar.
we'd all talked that tonight could possibly work, but I didn't get it
I thought it
a
was
calendar
January.
invite, so I can do that.
Okay, because I
Before we
just saw it
leave
and I
here
was like,
tonight,
oh, I
let's
did
go on
not.
that
Move that to January, prior to the January.
Well, or earlier,
Yeah.
but whatever.
Oh,
I just wanna-
How it's tonight. We've been there for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. So that's all I got.
So the vape detectors are up and operational?
Yep. Yep.
And I see you detected one?
It has. Yep.
And so,
Unfortunately.
just, what do we typically do when they get caught?
So the
I mean,
nice
you should
thing-
have camera footage that went into the,
So we
wherever.
have camera footage to be able to see who goes in and out. The nice thing about our current vape detectors too is they're very sensitive right now because they're acclimating
Sure,
and all
sure.
that. So we're getting a lot of alerts, even though they may be false alarms, especially for masking. So anytime a custodian is in cleaning anything, we're getting alerts that there's some masking stuff. So if it does alert you if like people were to spray stuff that they would try to cover it up with. So if we're getting masking alerts in the middle of the day with no custodians in there, we're checking it out.
Yep.
At the same time, it also will pick up whether it is a nicotine-based vape or a THC-based vape. So THC would be more of your controlled substance, nicotine is more of your tobacco-based product. So, the way then Dan's utilizing that is based on that, controlled substance would equate more of our hearings that we had like last year. Tobacco-based product, we're utilizing just like we had before with, short-term suspensions for first incidents and going beyond that. So really working to, follow.
And so when this one was
Handbook.
detected, it was a
It's a
suspension?
handbook violation.
Super,
And
thank
a
you.
good conduct violation.
Okay,
So,
great.
yeah, so.
And we talked on the phone system thing, I think we have till 26 on that.
Yeah, so I knew it was getting closer, but we're not quite there, so, but yeah, okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Caleb.
So you had mentioned some time ago about a communications committee where you're gonna look at the logos and stuff. I don't know where that ever came from or where it's at with that. And then I think, I'm not necessarily the superintendent's report, but I think we need to probably have a closed session to look at his, we haven't done that for a while, to look at his review and where we're at in the progress thing.
Yep,
I would suggest we maybe put that on
yep, for.
next month
Yep.
sometime.
Yep. Nope. Yeah, the logos and stuff, I've started to try to get that, some stuff going on that a couple times, so I'll work on getting our communication group back together and kind of share what kind of our next steps could be on that.
And then lastly, I know I'm probably the only one that visits our webpage, but we've welcomed you enough off the main page.
Okay.
And I'm a little discouraged that we had a team that played for the state championship and we don't have them on our slideshow here. It's old stuff, and so my question is, who's responsible for keeping this updated?
Yeah. So right now, it's about 2 to 3 people, so we can get that, work to get that streamlined too.
I mean, I don't know who, I think you just need to have somebody that does it because it's nice, but I mean, that's a 2000, or did it get updated?
Go ahead, it's 2024.
So it did get updated, because it wasn't updated like last week when I looked at
I
it.
think you're waiting on the pictures.
Okay, thank you. And then, I know Dan's, he's over here looking pretty good, but when you look at his photo on the thing, it looks like he took a scan off a newspaper. Can we get him a real photo?
Where's that at?
In the snap pictures.
Well, I didn't say take the photo off of there.
Oh, we could, need a photo out there?
We can do that.
Yeah, those are all brand new pictures, looks like.
Yeah, so they've been updated since last week when I looked at it. Thank you.
So while you're speaking of pictures, so can we had initially done stuff for the pictures, because I don't think Jordan has a picture, any updates with us as well. I think we need to.
Okay. Yeah.
We scheduled that for one time and then it got canceled.
I thought we
got
did on that
pictures at
graduation.
Yeah,
and we
I
never
need to follow up
saw
on that.
it.
We haven't gotten
Yeah, we did
that.
take them there.
Yeah, I'll took them.
That's right, we did.
He wasn't very happy about it, but he did take them. See, I mean, look at this.
Oh, yeah,
Moved
it's
down
very
the
blurry.
hall.
Yeah, it looks like a post
Canceled
office.
his contract for the next year, so that's probably.
Why we did that.
That's not terrible, but
Still live,
this is just not what I would publish.
Well, I know Farmer Star would be
It
more
looks
than
okay.
happy to
Yeah,
come and do
thank
those
you.
two. We just gotta give them.
All right, I'll take this. I'll go to her.
Dan?
You'll go to her.
What's terrible on the website?
We can set up the impromptu photo gallery in the Boncher garage again too, if need be, but.
I'll go to that with you.
And have we had any progress on the Hall of Champions thing?
Yeah, so I messaged Brian and John today about getting interviews conducted so that we can get that as a rec to
Okay.
hire coming up in January too. So,
Okay,
So before we go into closed session, do we want to skip ahead to setting calendars, since some of these people probably won't come back after closed session?
oh, you wanna go to my favorite part of the meeting?
Where it's cooler?
So our regularly scheduled programming is,
Early.
The work
16th,
session should be the
16th.
7th, and the regular meeting should be the 16th. According to second Tuesday and third Thursday.
Is that too soon for financials stuff for you? Because that's
First Tuesday.
kind of,
Actually, that works out nicely.
Early in the month.
Go to school on the 7th.
or is that okay?
For the 16th?
Yeah.
I think it'd be a PD.
It's a little early, but we will make it work.
Okay.
It's the third Thursday, it's the same time.
It's
so-
the third Thursday, so yeah, I'll say you move it to the next one, it just gets too far for.
That's 7?
Is it 7th? I think it is.
I mean, ideally, you should be able to run that financial every day of the week without an issue,
Right.
so,
6:30.
And
anyway.
it should be live, like,
yeah, I mean, it should be able.
live work, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, like I said, you know, all else fails, what we should be able to do is run the report on Friday. If we have new bills or something come in, we can just say, highlighted are the updated bills that have been added. Like, we should be able to do that, so.
So 7 o'clock work session on the 7th.
yeah, so 7
All
o'clock.
meetings are 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
We'll be here early.
And in Rainbow.
Good.
So when do you want to do the facilities committee
You
meeting?
want to do that before the work session?
So the night, was I making up the 19th is on January?
The 19th of
I
January
think
is
it
a
was supposed
Sunday.
to be today. And none of us, we didn't finalize it.
Because that's what I was
That was-
reading through the message thread, was there was a lot of January talk, and then it went from January talk to the 19th.
Yeah, I know, but
Without
it
a
never
month
was
prior to it. So
confirmed.
then I was,
Doug and I were here for that.
Yeah, I was here. But, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I could just go earlier on the 7th, that's fine.
What time do you want to do it at the 7th? What all do we? Like
An
5?
hour, yeah, an hour earlier would be fine.
5:30, 6?
So 6 would be fine.
Okay.
I have a document that I have some notes in, I'll share with all of you guys tonight, and then you can provide any feedback to me on that, and I can work to get any other information for you for that meeting too.
Building and grounds is the 7th, right?
Yes.
Yep.
At
Okay.
6 o'clock.
And 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay, so we got that, so, should we do a 5-minute
Yes.
recess and then come back to the full session?
Sure.
Okay,
I'll move to adjourn for 5 minutes.
motion by Doug,
A second.
second by Rod to adjourn for 5 minutes.
So before we adjourn, when are they gonna have the heat somewhat regulated?
Oh, I think it's nice in here. I don't know what
Oh,
you're
man,
talking
it's
about.
warm.
When has it